Have you ever been humiliated so badly in public that the memory still burns in your chest, yet you had no idea how to respond without losing even more dignity? What if I told you that silence, not shouting back, can be the most devastating weapon against disrespect? Imagine rising so quietly, so powerfully, that the very people who laughed at you end up regretting ever crossing your path. Have you ever been publicly humiliated by someone rude, and in that moment, you froze? Maybe they insulted you in front of everyone. Maybe they laughed at your expense. Maybe they made you feel small, like your presence didn't matter. But here's the truth they'll never admit. You don't need to clap back to earn respect. Respect isn't built by snapping back or matching their arrogance. It's built by rising so quietly, so steadily, that their cruelty eventually echoes back at them. And in this video, I'm going to give you brutally honest ways to gain respect after humiliation. No fake smiles, no forced positivity, no desperate people-pleasing, just cold, calculated confidence. Because when someone tries to crush your pride in public, your silence, your discipline, and your comeback can haunt them far louder than any words ever could. So let's begin. By the way, if you enjoy deep, thought-provoking insights on Stoicism, self-improvement, and navigating life with wisdom, you'll love my free newsletter. Every Sunday, I share powerful lessons, controversial truths, and practical strategies to help you level up, absolutely free. Want to join? Sign up using the link below and start receiving value-packed content straight to your inbox every week. And if you're a brand looking to sponsor this channel and reach a highly engaged audience, my email is in the description. Let's create something impactful together. Rule number 1. Let your results slap them in the face. Let me take you back to a moment I'll never forget. It was a small gathering, nothing formal, just friends and acquaintances. I slipped up while speaking, something minor, something that could happen to anyone. But then came him. You know, the type. Loud, always hungry for attention, fueled by sarcasm and ego. He twisted my small mistake into his big punchline. He mocked me in front of everyone, laughed louder than the joke deserved, making sure every eye was on him. And the others laughed too. Not because it was funny, but because it's easier to laugh with the pack than risk being the target yourself. And there I stood, not silent because I had nothing to say, but silent because I had already made a choice. If I clapped back, I'd give him exactly what he wanted. My energy, my frustration, my reaction. Instead, I gave him nothing. No anger, no comeback. Just a quiet nod, as if I agreed with the joke. But in my mind, I was agreeing with a promise. You get your moment now, but I will take your spotlight later. From that day, I disappeared. No more desperate social posts, no group chats. I stopped trying to prove myself with words and instead began building proof through action. I woke up earlier. I hit the gym harder. I read more. I tackled the tasks I had been putting off for months. I cut off distractions. And yes, I cut off the people who laughed. I invested in myself like my pride depended on it, because it did. And it wasn't just revenge. It was redemption. Every single day I grew stronger. I pictured their faces seeing me later, sharper, fitter, more focused, more successful. 6 months passed. My life, my energy, my entire presence had transformed. And then, guess who slid into my DMs? The same guy who once mocked me. But this time, he wasn't laughing. He was asking for advice. You see, that moment taught me something powerful. Your results can speak louder than any insult ever could. People began asking me, "How did you grow your brand so fast? How did you stay disciplined? How did you get ahead in such a short time?" And right there I realized I had already won, not because I clapped back, not because I even answered their questions, but because I didn't need to reply at all. My results were doing the talking for me. That's the controversial truth nobody tells you. Snapping back with insults might feel loud, but it's short-lived. It fades as quickly as it comes. But clapping back with results, that's different. It's silent, it's powerful, and it humiliates them on a whole other level. Think about it. When someone publicly disrespects you, what do they really want? Attention. They want your reaction, your energy. Don't give it to them. Give them outcomes instead. Let them watch you rise into someone they can't touch, can't ridicule, and certainly can't compete with. Let your transformation speak so loudly that their funny little jab feels like ancient history. Let your discipline make their laziness look pitiful. Let your consistency throw a spotlight on their inconsistency. And let your silence turn into a mirror that reflects their insecurity back at them. Because when you grow and they don't, your very existence becomes a reminder that they lost. So don't waste yourself chasing revenge. Don't beg anyone for respect. Don't defend your name by shouting louder. Instead, build yourself so relentlessly that their insult becomes your origin story, and your success slaps them harder than any comeback ever could. Rule 2. Publicly ignore them. There are few moves more devastating than pretending someone doesn't exist, especially when they're desperately trying to provoke you. Let me be blunt. The people who humiliate you in public aren't just being rude. They're making a power play. They crave a reaction. Anger, embarrassment, tears, because your reaction validates their ego. But here's where you flip the script. You don't react. You don't even speak. You don't glance their way. You ignore them, coldly, completely, as if they never existed. Let me share a story. There was a guy I used to hang around with, loud, smug, always trying to one-up others. One day, in front of everyone, he mocked me about something deeply personal I had once told him in confidence. The group laughed. I didn't. I just stared at him with a blank face. No argument, no defense, not even a blink. From that moment on, he was cut off. No eye contact, no nods, no casual chats. Just a cold, empty silence between us. Months went by. I focused on myself. I trained harder. I sharpened my mind. I built new boundaries. People started noticing the difference in me. I wasn't playing childish social games anymore. Then one day at a gathering, that same guy approached me in front of others. He smirked and said, "Hey bro, we good now?" I looked at him, said, "Nothing," and walked straight past. No glance, no smirk, no acknowledgement, just silence. And in that instant, in front of everyone, he shrank. Because I did the one thing he couldn't. I kept my power. Now let me tell you the truth. People often say, be the bigger person. But being the bigger person doesn't mean staying available to those who disrespected you. It means knowing your worth and deciding who no longer deserves access. You don't have to forgive disrespect just because ignoring it feels uncomfortable. And you don't need fake peace to appear mature. Real maturity isn't about politeness. It's about control. Control over your energy. Control over who you acknowledge. Control over who you allow into your space. Here's why ignoring someone publicly works. It starves their ego. They came for drama. You gave them nothing. It shocks the crowd. They expected noise. You gave them silence. And silence, when used with strength, flips the entire power dynamic. And here's the beauty of it. While they thought they embarrassed you, the truth is flipped. They're the ones standing isolated, invisible, forgotten by the very person they once tried to humiliate. And the best part? You didn't have to shout. You didn't need to throw back insults. You didn't even owe them an explanation. With your silence and your distance, you showed the entire world something far more devastating. That this person means absolutely nothing to you. And nothing cuts deeper than that. Because in the end, respect is never earned by clapping back. Respect is earned by refusing to acknowledge those unworthy of your time and your presence. That's how kings move. That's how true leaders operate. They don't argue, they don't beg, they don't chase, they simply exclude. So when someone disrespects you in public and then later pretends like nothing ever happened, don't meet them halfway. Don't fake a smile. Don't play along to keep the peace. Publicly ignore them. Let the silence echo louder than any clever comeback you could have given. Let them stand in a room full of people and suddenly realize they no longer exist in your circle. They've been demoted, stripped of significance, reduced to a stranger. And here's the power in that. Everyone watching will respect you more. Not because you delivered some witty line, but because you said nothing at all. Rule 3. Speak once and never again. Here's the next truth. Say it once, clearly, firmly, confidently, and then shut the door. Never repeat yourself. Let them live with the echo of your words. Let that single line burn in their memory. Most people won't admit this, but it's real. The moment you start over-explaining yourself to someone who has already disrespected you, you've already surrendered. The power. Why? Because they're not after clarity. They're after control. They want you to keep chasing their approval, to feel desperate to be understood, to need their permission just to defend your own name. But when you speak once, without anger, without weakness, without desperation, and then never again, you shift the entire room. You change the energy. You leave them scrambling. Let me share a story I'll never forget. Years ago, I worked with a man who acted like he owned the place. To the higher-ups, he was charming, charismatic. But behind closed doors, he was manipulative, smug, and hungry for power. One day, during a team meeting, he decided to take a cheap shot at me. Public, blatant, designed to humiliate. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to me, waiting for an outburst. Instead, I gave him one line. Calm, cold, cutting. Director, if you truly believe that, then I've clearly overestimated your integrity. That was it. No raised voice, no emotional rant, just a single sentence delivered with precision. Then I leaned back in my chair, folded my arms, and let the silence hang heavy in the room. He laughed nervously, tried to shift the blame, even looked around for support, but the damage was already done. I never brought it up again. I never confronted him, never gave him another ounce of energy. And guess what? That one moment was the only thing people remembered. Not as insult, but my restraint. Here's why speaking once and never again is so powerful. First, it makes your words unforgettable. People are used to noise, arguments, pleading, endless repetition. But when you speak only once, it hits harder. It becomes a statement, not a debate. Second, it demonstrates unshakable confidence. When You don't feel the need to defend yourself again and again. You're showing the world one simple truth. You know exactly who you are, and you're not here to prove it. Third, it exposes the other person's insecurity. When you stop responding, they start unraveling. They scramble for control. They dig their own grave trying to get a reaction, while you've already moved 10 steps ahead. That's the controversial truth no one wants to hear, but it's the one that changes everything. And that's the point. You don't owe your truth to people who twisted it the first time. You don't owe them a clarification. You don't owe them your voice. What you owe yourself is peace. Let people talk. Let them misinterpret you. Let them create their own stories. Because if they truly deserved your energy, they never would have tried to humiliate you in the first place. So here's what you do. Speak once. Not out of rage, but out of power. Not sloppy, but sharp. Be clear, firm, and above all, controlled. And then, leave them with nothing but silence. That silence becomes your armor. It's your declaration that you've stopped playing their childish game. And trust me, nothing haunts a disrespectful person more than realizing they no longer have access to your attention. Weak people? They're the ones who write long messages trying to explain themselves to those who don't care. They're the ones posting vague statuses, begging for mutual friends to step in and clear things up. But strong people, those with unshakable self-respect, they speak once and let everyone else scramble to interpret. That's not arrogance. That's self-respect. You're not just guarding your peace, you're commanding it. So next time someone humiliates you publicly or questions your character, don't bark, don't plead, don't overshare. Say your truth once, with backbone, with fire, with calm authority. Then let them drown in the noise they created. Because real strength doesn't shout. Real strength doesn't argue. Real strength delivers what needs to be said once and never again. Rule 4. Use humor as a dagger. Now let's set something straight. If someone humiliates you in front of others, the worst thing you can do is lose control of your emotions. That's exactly what they want. That's what gives them power. They want to see you flinch, stumble, defend yourself, even collapse. But there's one response that flips the entire script. One move that makes the whole room instantly shift in your favor. A calm, calculated joke. Not a joke for entertainment, but a joke that exposes. A line that slides beneath the surface, dances around their ego, and slices them before they even realize they've been cut. Let me give you an example. I was in a small meeting with about 10 people. One guy, you know the type, too loud, too confident, way too comfortable trying to show off. He decided to call me out in front of everyone. He smirked and said, "Honestly, I'm just not sure you really understand what the client is asking for." That wasn't a question. That was a public slap. He wanted laughs. He wanted me to stumble. Now, the younger me would have rushed into a long explanation, defending myself word by word. But this time, I paused. I breathed. I looked him right in the eyes and said with a small smile, "You're absolutely right. Let's all slow down to your pace." The room froze. A heavy silence filled the air. Then a few awkward chuckles broke through. But here's the best part. I didn't follow up. I didn't justify myself. I didn't explain further. I simply carried on with the meeting as if I'd brushed lint off my shoulder. And just like that, he stayed quiet for the rest of the meeting. Not because I shouted, not because I dominated, but because I made it crystal clear. I'm not the one to play with. Here's why humor works better than rage when you've been disrespected. First, it confuses the enemy. They expect anger. They expect you to snap. They want a dramatic reaction. But when you smile and strike back with something sharp, witty, and calm, they don't know what just happened, and they have no idea what to do next. Second, it turns the room in your favor. People admire confidence. They respect composure. But what wins them over most? When you make disrespect itself look ridiculous. And here's the thing, a well-timed joke doesn't just offend you, it flips the entire social energy. The atmosphere in the room changes instantly. The crowd, whether silently or with nervous laughter, begins to lean toward your side. The spotlight is no longer theirs, it's yours. Third reason humor is powerful. It makes you unforgettable. Think about it. Anger fades. Rants are forgotten. But a savage one-liner? That lingers. People will repeat it later, laugh about it, and deep down, even the one you joked about, will feel that sting replaying in their mind for weeks. Here are some lines you can keep in your back pocket. That was a bold take. Wrong, but bold. You clearly misunderstood me, but I admire your confidence in staying wrong. I'd argue with you, but I like to win. I love how you said that, like it made sense. You don't need to swing hard. You just need to aim well. A precise jab delivered with calmness is far more devastating than an angry explosion. Because here's the truth. Most people who humiliate others in public are deeply insecure. They crave attention and control. And nothing shatters that illusion faster than someone who can laugh right in the middle of an attack and deliver a line so casual it almost feels like a compliment, until it cuts. But let me be controversial here, because most won't dare to. Say it. You will never gain respect after humiliation by being soft, not by begging, not by explaining, not by crying about how wrong they were. Respect comes when you rise with a smirk, respond without raising your voice, and effortlessly make them look like the fool. Respect comes when people say, "Damn, did you hear what she said to him?" Or, "He clapped back without even blinking." That's when people realize you're not just unbothered, you're dangerous. And in a world that feeds off ego and fear, danger commands respect. Remember this. The sharpest blade doesn't scream. It slides through with a smile. So next time someone tries to humiliate you, don't explode, don't fold, jab, smile, walk away. Let them laugh with the room, while inside, they're quietly bleeding from the cut you left behind. Rule 5. Cut off anyone who laughed with them. Now let's get brutally real. When someone humiliates you publicly, your eyes first lock on the person who delivered the blow. But the second glance? That's where the real pain hits. The ones who laughed. The ones who smirked. The ones who stayed silent, even though they knew you, even though they could have stood up, but instead chose comfort over character. And let's be clear, those people are worse than the one who disrespected you. Why? Because disrespect from an enemy is expected. But betrayal from someone who calls you bro, sis, or friend, that cuts deeper. I remember back in college, a so-called friend cracked a joke about my financial situation loud enough for the whole room to hear. Sure, he was always the class clown, so people laughed. But what burned me the most wasn't him. It was the 3 others sitting beside me who laughed right along. The same people I had shared meals with, studied late nights with, even defended when others talked behind their backs. I didn't say a word that day. I just took mental notes. From that moment on, I was done with them. No more group chats, no more hangouts, no more fake laughs. I cut them off cold, sharp, and clean. And guess what? Not a single one ever came back to ask why. Because deep down, they already knew. They knew they laughed when they shouldn't have. They knew they chose sides, and that's the lesson. Silence is a choice. So is laughter. And so is disloyalty. Here's why you must cut off anyone who laughs with your enemy. First, they've revealed their true allegiance. People don't laugh at jokes made at the expense of those they respect. If they laughed while you were being disrespected, they enjoyed it. Even if later they say, "It was just a joke," or "I didn't mean it." No, laughter is agreement in disguise. Second, keeping them around exposes weak boundaries. If you pretend nothing happened and continue, as usual, they'll think, "I can cross this line again and they'll still let me in." And remember what we just said. Keeping people who laughed at your humiliation only weakens you. Letting it slide doesn't make you noble. It makes you look weak. You gain no respect by holding on to those who betrayed your dignity. Here's the truth. Your presence is valuable. Treat it that way. If you want people to respect you, you need to show them through your actions. Say it clearly. I don't tolerate subtle betrayal. You're not desperate. You're not needy. And if someone can't stand with you when the moment is uncomfortable, then they don't deserve to stand with you when you rise. Now, let's talk about what happens when you don't cut them off. Slowly, you begin to lose your power. They make another joke. They talk behind your back. They use you as their stepping stone to feel better about themselves. And the worst part? You start to believe that maybe you deserve it. Let me make this controversial and crystal clear. If you tolerate snakes, don't act surprised when they bite you. You don't need some dramatic confrontation. You don't need to chase closure. You don't owe anyone a speech. All you do is stop answering, stop inviting, stop trusting. That's it. Quiet, clean, final. Here's what no one tells you. Most people are watching closely when you're humiliated. They're not just laughing, they're taking notes. If they see you forgive the wrong people too quickly, they label you as someone they can walk over again and again. But if they see you cut people off, move smarter, rise higher, without bitterness, you become dangerous. You become a person with standards. Someone who demands respect not just in words, but in actions. So the next time someone disrespects you publicly, don't just focus on the one who said it. Look around. Watch carefully. Who laughed? Who smirked? Who stayed silent when they had the chance to step in? Those people are not your friends. They are simply waiting for the next moment to laugh at your expense. When respect is lost, distance is the only cure. Cut them off, quietly, permanently, no warnings, no announcements. And watch how your life becomes lighter and your circle becomes stronger. Rule 6. Make them regret. Picking on you, listen carefully. When someone humiliates you, they're not just trying to be funny. They're testing you. They're gambling that you won't fight back, that you'll stay quiet, that you'll let it slide. But this is exactly where you flip the narrative. You don't respond with emotion, you respond with evolution. You want to make them regret ever thinking you were the soft one. But you do it strategically, not with shouting, not with petty revenge, but with transformation. Let me share a true story. Back in my very first job, I had a manager who seemed to enjoy humiliating me in front of the entire team. He laughed at my ideas. He cut me off mid-sentence. At one point, he literally said, "Let's leave the real decisions to people who actually know what they're doing." The room laughed. My chest was on fire, but I didn't flinch. I said nothing, but inside I made a promise to myself. You'll eat those words, and I won't even need to remind you when it happens. So I went silent, not submissive, but focused. I stopped trying to impress them. Instead, I poured everything into growth. I learned like a madman. I volunteered for the worst clients, the projects nobody wanted. I stayed late, not for them, for me. And 3 months later, everything changed. I closed a deal that literally saved the company's quarter. And guess who had to stand up in front of everyone and give me credit? Yes, him. The same manager who mocked me. And here's the best part. He couldn't even look me in the eye because deep down he knew. He knew he had handed the microphone to the wrong person that day. So here's how you make them regret ever picking on you. 1. Become the person they swore you'd never be. The fastest way to silence a critic is to embody everything they said you couldn't. They called you dumb, outlearned them. They mocked your ideas, outbuild them. They laughed at your dreams, outlived them. That's the sweetest revenge, and the only one worth having. And remember, true revenge isn't about shouting back. It's about transforming yourself. Let their insult be the fuel, not the wound. Step 2. Build in silence, return in power. Don't waste your energy broadcasting. Your comeback plan, that's just empty noise. Move quietly, focus deeply, show results. By the time they realize how much you've leveled up, it will already be too late for them to undo the damage they caused. Step 3. Don't block them. Let them watch. The best revenge isn't about serving it cold. It's about letting them see it unfold in real time. Let them scroll through your progress. Let them hear your name spoken with respect. Let your success become their personal punishment. Now, let's make this controversial. Some people will tell you to forgive and forget. Forgive, yes. But forget? Never. Why? Because pain has memory. And when you use that memory the right way, it doesn't stay as trauma. It transforms into motivation. They picked on you when you were at your weakest. So let them see you now, standing at your strongest. And no, you don't need to humiliate them back. You don't need a dramatic confrontation. The greatest regret they'll ever feel is watching you become everything they once tried to suppress. Here's the cold truth. Nobody regrets picking on the person who stays small, quiet, and disappears. But they do regret underestimating the one who rises silently, returns unrecognizable, and commands every eye in the room without even trying. That version of you, they won't see coming. And when they finally do, it'll be too late. Rule 7. Stand on your standards. Let's set one thing straight. When someone humiliates you publicly, they're not just trying to make a joke. They're testing your self-worth. They're probing to see how much disrespect will this person tolerate before they push back. And the way you respond sends a message, not just to them, but to everyone watching. This is where your standards come into play. Not the ones you merely talk about, the ones you enforce. The invisible lines that say, this is what I accept. This is what I don't. And if you cross it, you're done. No explanation necessary. Here's a personal story. I used to have a friend who constantly threw out jokes that were really just insults dressed up with a smile. He'd comment about my appearance, my family, even my relationships, always ending with, "Relax, I'm just kidding." One day, in front of a group, He crossed the line and joked about something deeply personal I had once told him in private. People laughed. I didn't. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Rye, that's the last time you'll ever speak to me like that." He laughed it off, thinking I was bluffing, but I wasn't. I didn't shout. I didn't explain. I just cut the cord. No texts, no calls, no interactions. Done. And guess what? Within weeks, the same people who used to laugh with him started drifting toward me. Why? Because when you set standards and enforce them, you become magnetic. Not because everyone will like you, but because people respect you. Let's break this down. 1. Standards are not rules. They are boundaries with consequences. Anyone can say they have boundaries. But if there's no consequence, it's just a suggestion. If you let someone cross your line once and do nothing, you've taught them to cross it again with confidence. Your standards should feel like concrete. Step out of line, and you hit a wall. No warning, no softness, just reality. 2. People will test you. Some will mock, tease, or disrespect you on purpose just to see if you're all talk. If you fold, you've trained them to believe you're not serious about yourself. But if you stand firm, you'll earn one of two things: their respect or their distance. And either way, you win. 3. You will lose people, but in return, you'll gain power. Let's be brutally honest. Enforcing your standards will make people uncomfortable. Some will leave. Let them. Because when you raise your standards, those who can't reach them will naturally fall away. They'll call you arrogant. They'll whisper, "You've changed." And you know what? Damn right you have. And that's the thing. When you finally stand tall on your standards, some people will twist it. Growth looks like arrogance to those who have already settled. Here's the controversial part. Most people don't actually have standards. They just want to be liked. They'll let others mock them, step on them, talk down to them, and they'll still smile, pretending it doesn't hurt just to avoid conflict. But let's be real, that's not humility. That's self-abandonment. When you truly stand on your standards, people begin to shift the way they treat you. Not because you demanded respect, but because you commanded it through your movements, your words, and your responses. Respect doesn't come from shouting, it comes from presence. So how do you put this into practice? Simple. Someone disrespects you once, you address it once. If they do it again, you walk away. No long debates, no pointless drama, just distance. And the most important rule, never lower your standards just to keep someone who makes you feel small. Because standards are the way you teach the world how to treat you. If someone humiliates you and you let it slide, you've trained them to do it again. But when you draw the line and you actually stick to it, you've built a boundary that even they can't ignore. That's how respect is won. Not through insults, not through clapping back, but by standing tall on principles that don't shake, even when the whole room is laughing. They thought it was just a joke, until you became the lesson. Here's the truth. You don't gain respect by reacting. In the moment of humiliation, you gain respect by transforming when they least expect it. Let them laugh. Let them mock. Let them write their punchlines and whisper behind your back. Because while they're stuck in the same shallow cycle, you are evolving in silence. You are rising with purpose. And by the time they realize what you've become, you'll be untouchable. Not because you're louder, but because you're unshakable. The world is full of people who will test your boundaries, just to see if you love yourself enough to defend them. So, show them. Show them you don't need arguments to prove your worth. Show them your glow doesn't dim just because someone tried to throw shade. Show them that you can take disrespect and turn it into domination. Because here's the part. They'll never admit the strongest revenge is becoming someone they cannot ignore. Even if they never liked you, even if they never say it out loud deep down, they respect you. So the next time someone tries to humiliate you, smile, say nothing, and get to work. Because you don't need applause. You need silence and a storm, quietly building behind it. And when you finally speak again, it won't be with words. It'll be with results.